My name is John O'Shea and I am the course leader for the Bachelor of Education, Primary Teaching. And so this is MI 005, MI 006 on the on your CAO handbooks. Very briefly, I want to give you an idea of the program, particularly what current students are doing today. So to give you an idea of what it's like to participate in the program, and also talk about the future in terms of what you can expect in the program and beyond. Okay, so it is, we normally accept about 440 students, I think, approximately per year into the program, and have done so now for a number of years. So in total, if you multiply that by 4, then you've got quite a number of students over the course of 4 years on the B.Ed program. The program is a 4-year undergraduate degree, as you probably know already, and it's primarily based on campus and in schools around the country on school placement. So there's a mixture of both on-campus lectures, tutorials, and engagement that you would expect at third level, but quite an amount of the program also is based in schools on what you probably know or have heard. If you have anybody, friends or relations, etc., gone through the program before, it's known as school placement or the professional placement aspect of the program. So the program, it carefully introduces you to primary teaching, and hopefully you'll see there the spine of the program in the middle of the screen there. Hopefully it develops you into all of what you see on screen: a learner, a teacher, a researcher, and a leader. And we are very proud of our program at MIC, our B.Ed program, in that its graduates and the graduates of the program are highly valued in the profession across the country and even beyond. Okay, so the MIC name, the MIC degree, is very valuable in across the country and as I said, even beyond, but particular to the primary school system in Ireland. Okay, so we have a great history and a great tradition in educating and forming primary teachers, the NQT, the newly qualified teacher, obviously acknowledging that it's the start of the journey in terms of becoming a learner. So the spine of the program is built in such a way to first of all, I suppose, introduce the first year to what it's like to be a teacher. So there are many different types of modules or subjects that you will study, and that will introduce you to what life might be like or what life is like as a teacher down the line. So as a learner, we take great care in helping you move from the side of the desk that you're currently on to the other side of the desk to being a teacher. So that's what first year and indeed some of second year is all about. We have options built into the program as you go through it to develop particular talents that you might have, such as music or sport or languages or different types of subjects that you might like to dip your toe into at third level. The opportunity is there for you to pursue those subjects in addition to your B.Ed degree, and that's one thing that makes our program unique in terms of the choice it offers people, the amount of opportunity it does offer people as they go through the program. So primarily in first year and second year, and indeed third year, most of the time is spent on campus with school placement opportunities and therein also. And in fourth year, half of the year is spent outside of campus, so in schools, probably your neighbouring school, indeed probably the school you went to yourself, the primary school that you may have attended. So from September to Christmas, as I said, it's most likely, and most of the 440 students do choose to go to a school of their home school for that practice. Okay, so I then just want to talk very, very briefly about what it's like for a first year right now. So what are they studying, to give you an idea of the modules that students are immersed in. So it's a little different at the moment because we're still in a COVID space, and that we're still in hybrid delivery mode, which some classes are on campus and some classes are online, but it is an on-campus program. It is a program that is taught at MIC Limerick, and obviously COVID, you're well versed in what COVID has done to the education system and has done to program delivery, both second and third level. we are back on campus. We're delighted to be back on campus. So students, the modules that you see there, students are currently doing these modules, but they're exploring a little bit of them online because of numbers and basically room numbers at the moment. So there on screen, you'll see in red, they are the module codes. Okay, so for want of a better word, subjects. Okay, and the subjects that our current first years who just came into us a short couple of weeks ago are exploring is Introduction to Technology and Education Methodology. So the first one is, what are the best approaches? What are the best strategies from an ICT perspective to engage students in learning, to engage to make sure that the environment for all primary school students is as it should be, so that they can all achieve to the best of their ability. So what technology can we utilize in that regard, together with education methodology? So things like developing questioning strategies, developing strategies for classroom management, developing good classroom management skills in the hope that it's the start of this journey for you, because it can be one of the most difficult things to develop with a student, together with how to structure a good explanation and how to begin to structure a good explanation to a primary school student. So that's the beginning of methodology, really. Okay, general issues. The second module there, you see language and literacy, and I'll deal with three of them together: language and literacy, an Gaeilge agus Mona na Gaeilge, and STEM 1, Introduction to Maths and its Teaching. So English, Irish and mathematics are the core of the curriculum, really, at primary level. So obviously, as a primary teacher, you teach all subjects. So we begin to explore the teaching of those subjects straight away. Okay, so it's not your knowledge. Obviously, your knowledge of English, your knowledge of Gaeilge, your knowledge of mathematics is important, but it's how best to, for example, if I was to walk into a junior infant classroom tomorrow morning, and last week they were looking at what, how the composition of 4, and this week we're moving on to 5, how best would I do that? And what are the strategies, the methods, the approaches, the concrete materials, the equipment, and so on, to the 20-odd students, are indeed, in many cases, much more, and what are the best strategies and methods, etc., for doing that. So they are the subject, the curriculum methodologies, and they begin quite early. So language and literacy, on Gaeilge, and mathematics, they're the first, mathematics and its teaching, they're the first curricular modules you do. Becoming a student teacher is an interesting one, because it's a module that helps in the transition from second level to third level. So academic writing, assignments, assessments, and so on are different at third level than at second level. And therefore you need help in that regard, in making sure that you are as assisted in as far as we possibly can in making that transition and getting used to life at third level. So we try to do that in as best we can through that module. So academic writing, for example, is in there. ICT for learning at third level is explored there also. And also, they're coming to college can be it's an interesting transition. It's a big transition. So helping you in that regard in terms of small group activities, small group work, so that you get to know each other as a group, because you'll be in a group with quite a number of people, and so there are helpful activities there to make the transition to third level for you. So that's an interesting module there, becoming a student teacher. Then we have, and I'll take them together, EDU 111 and 106. So they are the foundation disciplines, we'd call them. So philosophy, sociology, educational psychology, in this case developmental psychology, the history of education. So we have a very proud tradition of teaching in this country, and therefore, and in particular, it's because of our foundation subjects, because we do what we do in primary schools for a reason. Okay, we have a history, and our teachers are very knowledgeable in terms of how children learn and in the different ways that they learn and they do what they do, and it's because of the teachers' understanding of the foundation subjects. So it's begun to, we explore how the mind works, we explore the development of students and their different stages of development in developmental psychology in particular, but also in looking at history, where we've come from, in philosophy, why we do what we do, and so on. So they're extremely interesting, and in this country, in terms of teacher education across the world, it's something that we value and that we hold very in very high regard, and they are indeed part of the spine of our program. And finally, there you'll see professional placement 1. That is preparing you to go on school placement for the first time. So what students are doing at the moment is looking at, Children First guidelines and professional code of practice for teachers, and etc. So it's really all part of becoming a professional, so that when you do go to classroom, and our first year students will go to classroom next April, May, they're prepared from that, from a professional background, but also obviously from in terms of curriculum and so on. So that's a taster, I suppose, of what it's like to be a first year student today. So the years ahead then, so it is a busy program because it's a professional qualification. So you can be employed in a primary school teacher upon graduation after 4 years. So it is busy. It's a program that, students, when they come to MIC and compare it to degrees maybe in other institutions where their friends have gone, always ask the question, why is it so busy? It's because it's a professional qualification. It's because you're entering straight away upon graduation, no further study required. You can be employed immediately in a permanent capacity as a primary teacher. But as I said, there are built-in choices within that program for you to develop talents, etc., that you might bring, or that you might have, that you might want to further develop. So, for example, we have what's currently called specialisms within our program. So you may have an interest in something there on screen that's there in front of you now, in either education or the liberal arts. So, the BA offered at Mary Immaculate College offers a range of subjects, and those subjects, many of those subjects, are accessible to you also to develop a specialism in. Okay, so maybe at the moment you're really interested in mathematics and you're enjoying your study of that, and you'd like to study that a little more. In terms of third level mathematics, that option is there for you. Similarly, Gaeilge or German or languages, in particular Gaeilge and German, theology and religious studies, and so on. Maybe not, and maybe you'd like to know a little bit more about inclusive special education, about early childhood studies, drama, PE, music, and so on. That option is there for you too. So there's a variety of inbuilt options in the program for you to tailor your degree. So you'll graduate with a B.Ed and a specialism in one of those subject areas, depending on what you're interested in. That's not an exhaustive list. They change on a regular basis, but it just gives you an idea of the options there for you. In terms of school placement, what can you expect? So you can expect to be on placement quite regularly in first year, yes, in second year, yes, third year and fourth year. So across the degree. Placements are designed to enable you to experience all class levels, so from junior infants right the way through to 6th class. Placements are normally, depending on where you come from, you will most likely be based around your home area or bused to a placement from the Limerick campus. Okay, so that's what you can expect. But at the moment, because of COVID, obviously students have spent an amount of time at home, and we have had to conduct placements at home. But as we move into more normal times again, you can expect to be in a placement around Limerick, or indeed close to your home. But across the program, it's important that you gain a variety of experience in a range of different settings. So that's important for you as a graduate in 4 years' time, so that you can go to an interview and say, yeah, so I've experience in a DESH school, for example, I've experience in infants, I've experience at senior classes in different types of rural, urban settings and so on. So, you will experience placement. The most frequent question I get asked is, when can I do a placement at home? Yes, you can. You will be doing a placement at home. Most likely to be your final placement. So the current 4th years, as I said, between September and December, they're at home for the moment, and for all of that time. So that's school placement. So finally then, as my time is running out, just to wrap up, after your degree. So obviously the obvious is that you are entitled to be employed in a primary school upon graduation. Indeed, many students come the end of the academic year in year 4 and are in a rush to be registered with the Teaching Council, because the employment opportunities may not be permanent straight away. Okay, so there's a variety of different types of employment, but there is employment there. And as I said, once it comes to the academic year, people are in a rush to get Teaching Council a Teaching Council number, because you have to have one of those to be employed, because the employment is there for you. It may not be permanent straight away. Often people spend an amount of time working in different types of contract capacities, but over time, it is a program with which you will be gainfully employed in a primary school, and most likely in a primary school in Ireland. But graduates have travelled, and in particular, there are many jurisdictions where the degree is recognised as satisfying all conditions in that country, in that jurisdiction for work. And people have travelled, for example, to a variety of different destinations across Europe and the Middle East and beyond. And therefore, that experience, the degree does travel well in that regard. Other jurisdictions may require a little extra in terms of certification, and it can be topped up in those jurisdictions, and students have done that in the past also. And finally, then graduates have gone on to further study. Graduates have gone to different jobs and different careers, both within education and outside of it also as well. So those opportunities are there also. Gurt Mila, Mahagoy
I'm the course leader of the Bachelor of Education International. This is one of our newer programs. We've got our second year of students this year. So if you are thinking about this program, you'll be getting it at a very early stage of it, and that is an exciting thing. What is the Bachelor of Education International? Well, in many ways, everything that Dr. John O'Shea explained applies to the Bachelor of Education International. So as he, described the school placements and the different modules that you will do, this term and in subsequent terms, all of that information applies to the B.Ed International. What's different about the B.Ed International is there is a mandatory study abroad experience, and that happens in autumn of third year. So we like to think of this as a professional qualification in primary teaching that allows you to develop academic specialisation in international education, particularly in terms of comparative education and intercultural education. So that's what it is. At the end of the programme, as Dr. O'Shea was saying, you will come out with a professional degree in education. You'll be able to register with the Teaching Council and apply like other B.Ed students for teaching posts. There are some modules that are specific to the Bachelor of Education International that you wouldn't be doing in the mainstream Bachelor of Education. Your modules start to become more distinct in third and fourth year of the programme. And I've given you a list of the modules here that are distinct to the Bachelor of Education. So you have the study abroad, which happens in the autumn semester of third year. And then there are these other modules, comparative education 1, 2. There's an education portfolio that allows you to filter and distill all of the experiences that you've gathered abroad into a teacher portfolio. And then your dissertation is expected to focus on an international or a comparative perspective on education. But for the first 2 years, you will be sharing your modules with the Bachelor of Education, and indeed, in some cases, with the Bachelor of Education in Psychology. One of the features of this programme is that the class cohort is quite small. There are approximately 15 students per year. So in comparison to the B.Ed, you're a much smaller group. But you do share a lot of modules. You're often in classes with B.Ed students as well. So you get the advantage of being a close-knit group while also still swimming in the greater waters of the Bachelor of Education. And as John said, with the B.Ed International, you have the same number of school placements, the same makeup of school placements, and so on. So there's a lot of synergies between the two programs. So students often wonder about the study abroad opportunities and what that involves. We're very lucky in MIC to have an international office that has developed an enormous amount of connections with the international community. And I have listed just some of the study abroad opportunities that are available through MIC when you're going on your study abroad in third year. This is just a snapshot. There's actually many more universities that we work with. And if you want to take a screenshot, you can see the link that you can look up yourself to look at all of our partner universities in Europe, Australia, and the United States. But just to give you a sense, there's a lot of partnerships in the US, and these are specifically for Bachelor of Education students. We also have quite a few in Europe and quite a few in Australia. Now, when you go on your study abroad, sometimes students wonder, will I be, teaching in a classroom in Australia or the United States? And the answer is not necessarily. Normally, when you're studying abroad, you're taking modules that are equivalent to the modules that you would be taking in the third year B.Ed. So it's very much an experience of going to a university in another country and taking modules that are somewhat similar to those you would take here, but invariably they have a very different angle, a very different perspective on education. And that's what we want the programme to bring to your professional development. We want you to be able to see education from an international lens. So as I say, it's important to, if you want to take a screenshot, to have a look to follow that link and to have a look at the partnerships. There's a huge range available. As well as to study abroad opportunities and those modules that are differentiated from the Bachelor of Education, we also try to engage you from the very beginning of the programme with international educationalists. So we have a monthly seminar series where we invite different people. Sometimes they're teachers from the United States. Sometimes they're researchers who are thinking about new approaches to education, and they come from all over the world. And because we have Microsoft Teams now, it means that on an ongoing basis you're going to be able to engage in informal conversations with educationalists internationally. And these people cover really interesting topics that I suppose are emerging in the field of education. So this is just a sample of some of the talks that we will be having this year. And so you can see there are speakers from the United States, from Australia, from Mexico, some from Ireland, from Argentina, from Finland and Sweden. So although you go on a study abroad, we try to make sure that on an ongoing basis, you are like, these ideas about international education are percolating through your studies. And we really encourage you to to bring the conversations that you learn in those seminars into your assessments and your portfolio, especially. Okay, so in terms of nuts and bolts, what can the B.Ed International offer you? You can expect at the end of this programme to have more knowledge about teaching in global contexts. You can expect to have more expertise in linguistically and culturally responsive education, which is a really important emerging area in the field of education. You can expect to have fostered relationships with an international community of teachers, scholars and researchers. We'd like you to have the ability to compare the educational context in Ireland to Finland or Sweden or to other places. And we would love you to finish this programme with an increased amount of multilingual and multicultural awareness. Thank you so much for listening.
My name is Claire Griffin and I am the course leader on the Bachelor of Education in Education and Psychology programme. So we generally refer to this as the B.Ed Psych programme, but it has the longer title of Bachelor of Education in Education and Psychology. And it's a dual degree programme. So you've got two areas in it. So firstly, you've got the professional qualification in primary school teaching, which is accredited by the Teaching Council of Ireland. But secondly, you also have an academic qualification in psychology. So that's a level 8 qualification. So this is what makes it uniquely different to the two previous programs that have just been discussed. Because when you finish this degree, yes, you finish with the qualification to be a primary school teacher in Ireland, but you also finish with your degree in psychology in the same way as if you decided when you finish your Leaving Cert to go and study psychology in another institution in Ireland. So you come out with a level 8 degree in psychology, which offers you avenues to study psychology at postgraduate level, or to go on and potentially work in the field of psychology to, and it's not just educational psychology that you're studying, it's rather a general degree, a level 8 degree in psychology. And you'll see that in a minute when we look at this subject choice. So at the end of the program, you have that unique qualification. You have your primary school teaching degree, but you also have your academic qualification in psychology. So that's what makes our program so unique, but also so attractive. So to look at the conceptual framework, this conceptual framework should look familiar to you. And this is the one that Dr. John O'Shea showed up at the start. So the middle section that you're seeing there is the framework for the B.Ed program, for the Bachelor of Education program. But then you'll also see those words coming in around it, which are the names of some of the modules on the psychology program. So what happens is, yes, you study your Bachelor of Education program just like the Bachelor of Education students or the Bachelor of Education international students. You're studying that B.Ed program. But in parallel, you are also studying your psychology degree program. So you're studying those range of different subjects. So you can see social psychology, developmental psychology, research methodology, personality and individual difference. And that's just a flavour of some of them. And all you need to do is look at the program on the Mary Immaculate College website, and you'll be able to see a breakdown of each semester, what's studied in terms of education and in terms of psychology. But you're studying the 2 degrees in parallel. So in terms of a class cohort, we have between 30 and 40 students per year group. And those people who generally apply to do the Bachelor of Education in Education and Psychology program are students who may have an interest in psychology coming into the program, or an interest in education, or the combined interest. So sometimes you have students who say, I've always wanted to be a primary school teacher, but I also have an interest in psychology, or I also have an interest in special education, or in students who learn in a different way, or students who are gifted, or students with neurological difficulties, and so it's students who maybe have that curiosity about education, but also the curiosity about psychology. And then there are some students who would say, no, my main interest is actually psychology, but I also do have an interest in education. So it's bringing those two areas together, and obviously both areas really complement each other. So for students who have a really strong desire to be a primary school teacher, the psychology degree obviously really complements that, both in terms of their theoretical understanding, but also in terms of their applied practice in the classroom. The students on the B.Ed psychology program share a lot of their lectures with the B.Ed students and with the B.Ed international students. And then in terms of their psychology lectures, they share a lot of those with the BA psychology students. And also there is that new psychology program and the Bachelor of Science in Psychology. And so they'll also be sharing them with some of those students as well. And then they also have the class-based lectures. So there are some lectures and tutorials that they have that there's just the 30 or 40 students of the B.Ed Psych program on their own together. And then, as I said, for other lectures, they're with the B.Ed students, or they're with the BA psychology students. So it's quite nice. You get to know students across different programs. You get to share lectures with them, but also you're in that nice small home class base. So you do know your classmates very well by the end of the program. It's that small 30 to 40. And as program leader, I would get to know the students across each year group very well, as would other lecturers. So to give you a sample of a semester, this would be what the current first years would be studying. So you see the first six subjects that are shown to you there: Professional Placement 1, Language and Literacy 1, and Gaeilge agus Múin na Gaeilge, STEM 1, Schools and Society 1, and Psychology of Learning and Development. They are all the education subjects that the students are studying as part of the B.Ed part of the programme. And then you see on the other side, you have Introduction to Psychology and Research Methodology 1, and that is the psychology component of their programme. And as they move through the programme, that varies in terms of weighting. So towards the latter side of the programme, you start to see more psychology in the programme, and the education subjects are less, because, as John said, in the final semester of fourth year, of the first semester of fourth year, so autumn of fourth year, students are out on school placement, and then they come back and there's a lot more psychology in their final semester. So what does the structure of the programme look like? Well, as I said to you, there's both the education and the psychology degrees happening in parallel. So you have about 58 student units of study, and that can vary slightly, but you're talking across your units of study. You're going to have professional placement, just like the B.Ed or the B.Ed International students. You're going to have lectures, you're going to have projects, and you're going to undertake an undergraduate dissertation in psychology. So that is in your final year, you will be undertaking a final year thesis or project in psychology. And it's a big component of your research, a big component of your study across the 4 years. And it's heavily weighted towards your degree in the end. And then obviously across the whole programme, you are doing those various modules, as you saw before, in education, in psychology, and in research methodologies. So you're learning to be a researcher, to conduct research, so that in that final year, both the teacher as researcher, but also the psychologist as researcher, you are undertaking that piece of research. It's applied piece of research that you then can write up as a final year thesis. And you also have the option in your last semester to do an elective in psychology. So there's lots of different elective choices, and this gives students the option, to look into an area that they may not have had the opportunity before. So this is kind of a different area to their final year study, and it gives that element of choice. So going back to that idea of the undergraduate dissertation in psychology, how does that run? Well, you undertake your research individually, but you have group supervision. So there would be one supervisor, let's say myself, who would take on a group of potentially 5 or 6 students, and we would supervise you as a group, but you're undertaking an individual piece of research. And during that, you have access to psychology-based equipment, so things like the eye tracker technology, the SuperLab software, PowerLab, blood pressure monitors, camcorders. So students can undertake their research in an array of different areas. And we've had students looking at things like stress. So that's where the blood pressure monitors might come in. They might look at things like assessment in the classroom. They might look at sports psychology related research. So it might be to do with group dynamics, social loafing, lots of different areas. And so what often happens is, as students move through the 4 years of their programme, they're undertaking their studies in their education and in their psychology, and they spark an interest in a certain area. So they might, for example, start to see that they really have an interest in sports related psychology, or they might say, no, I'm really enjoying the education side of psychology and I'd love to do a bit more research in that area, or I'm really interested in health psychology, or whatever. And they decide then to undertake their final research in that area. And they can do applied research. So as I said, some students are out in classrooms doing that research, and then others do more desk-based research. So they might undertake, some bit of research to do with the data that's already there. So like data related to the Growing Up in Ireland study, for example. So they're taking that research that's already being conducted and maybe running some statistical analysis on it. And from that, students have the opportunity to present their research at the Psychological Society of Ireland All Ireland Student Congress. They also have it at the All Ireland Conference of Undergraduate Research, and also we hold our own conference within Mary Immaculate College, which we call PsychFest, which gives the opportunity to fourth year students to present their psychology research to other students within the college. And it's normally the first, second and third year B.Ed psychology students and BA psychology students who would be really interested in going to see PsychFest, because it gives them food for thought on what they might do in terms of their own research. Across the 4 years, as I said, you'll also engage in professional placement. So just like the B.Ed or the B.Ed International Programme, it's vital that you undertake this professional placement so that your degree is accredited by the Teaching Council of Ireland. So you're undertaking approximately 24 weeks over your 4 years, and part of that will be observation, part of it will be actual teaching and participating in school life. And what Dr. John O'Shea would have talked about, that idea of potentially undertaking your school placement in schools maybe near home, or the school that you attended as a student yourself. You know, those opportunities are available to you on the B.Ed Psych programme as well. You also undertake Gaeltacht placement, where you do 2 sets of 2 weeks, and that's the same as the B.Ed or the B.Ed International Programme. And finally, you undertake applied placement, and this is an opportunity to apply your knowledge of psychology to an educational environment other than a mainstream setting. So you might have students here who might attend a special school or attend a special class that is attached to a mainstream school, those kind of settings where students start to go in and start to look at teaching and learning in a different way. So what about these students who maybe have autism, for example? What about students who have a language delay or a language disorder? You know, what can education offer these students? And also, how can I apply my knowledge of psychology to this setting to maybe better support these students? So it's a really lovely opportunity to bring both components of your program together in the applied placement. This is just to give you a sense of some of the achievements of our B.Ed psychology students. We're extremely proud of our programme, and we're extremely proud of the graduates of our programme. And we have had huge success from our programme and from our students over the past number of years. You can see there highlighted, we have had students who have won the All Ireland Student Congress, and they've won the top prize. And just look at the years there, right across 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018. We have won that. And just to make that clear, that is an All Ireland Congress where students studying psychology all across Ireland, so you're talking all of the other big institutions that teach psychology, all come together to present their final research that they conducted in psychology. And they present that to their peers within their own college, but also to their peers nationwide. And then also you have lecturers like myself and others who will adjudicate on the day. And you can see Mary Immaculate College has won the top prize across all of those years. So we have huge pride in our programme, but we've had huge success because the strength of the research that our students conduct is really, really high. The quality is really high, and this is recognised at a national level. And we've also had a range of students who have been highly commended at those awards as well, right through. We've had at the annual conference. So the PSI annual conference is different. This is where people like myself, so lecturers, researchers, people who are qualified and working in the field of psychology nationwide come together. But every year since 2014, we have had a student symposium at that. So what we have is the graduates of our programme, roughly 4 or 5 of them, come together, and I put into the annual conference this student symposium. So 4 or 5 of our students come together and they present to professionals in the field, so to practicing psychologists, to practicing lecturers, and to researchers. And every year we've had huge positive feedback from these students because they're presenting student-based research at a national level, and it's really highly received. We've also have students who have won the Global Undergraduate Awards competition. So this is a competition that students in Mary Immaculate College and across Ireland enter, but you're up against students globally. So students from Australia, America, Europe, etc., where they would also put in essays from their degree. So it could be an essay that students have written in their final year or in their second last year. And they put in those essays into this competition, and we have had students highly commended in the psychology categories and in the education categories across all of those years. You can see 2021, 2019, etc. And we actually won the overall category back in 2012. So we've had, huge success at that global level as well from the B.Ed Psych programme. We've had students who have presented at national conferences for special education. So you see there the IATSE conference, poster award in 2019, and a range of other awards, national, international conference presentations, college-based awards. And we've also had students who have published their own final year research in peer-reviewed journals. So like the Reach Journal, the Irish Educational Studies, the Children's Research Digest, and the Irish Teachers Journal. So these are very, very high quality journals that our students have managed to publish in from their final year research. And they've also published in practitioner magazines like the Irish Psychologist or the In Touch magazine. So one of the big questions that I always get asked on these open days, as well as by email contact, is what can you do when you finish the programme? So when you finish the program, and I started the presentation with this, and it's a good way to finish as well, you finish with your dual degree. So you have your degree in education, which is your primary school teaching degree, but you also have your academic qualification in psychology, which is accredited by the Psychological Society of Ireland. So if you look at the left-hand side of the slides, you can see from the education point of view, you can go straight in and teach and start a career in primary school teaching. So you can teach in a mainstream setting or in a special education setting, just like your colleagues on the B.Ed programme or the B.Ed International programme. And then some students go on and decide that they might do a postgraduate study in education, which can lead to careers in leadership positions in education or working with other education settings like the PDST, for example. Or even we've had students who go on to do third level lecturing or do other areas like play therapy. So they might decide, yes, I love primary teaching, but I want to do additional studies in the area, for example, of play therapy, and they go on to do further work in that area. But remember, you also have a degree in psychology when you finish this programme. So many of our students will go on to do postgraduate studies in psychology, which can lead to careers in educational psychology, developmental, neuropsychology, health, sports psychology, third level lecturing, research, etc. And I myself am a graduate of the B.Ed psychology programme. I was one of the first students on the first year that the B.Ed psych programme came out. So I went on and I became an educational psychologist. That's the road I went down after teaching for a number of years. I became an educational psychologist and then I moved into third level lecturing. But we, as I say, have had students who have finished the B.Ed psychology programme and have gone on to study in an array of different areas. So as I say, not just educational psychology, but in any of those other domains of psychology. All of those areas are open to students, as is teaching and all of the areas open on that side of the degree.
Hello everyone, you are very welcome to this presentation, which tells you a lot of information about the Bachelor of Arts in Early Childhood Care and Education at Mary Immaculate College. My name is Dr Mary Moloney and I am the course leader for the Bachelor of Arts in Early Childhood Care and Education. In this presentation, we will take a very brief look at early childhood care and education in Mary Immaculate College. We will look at the importance of early childhood care and education, and we will look at the detail of the BA in Early Childhood Care and Education here at Mary Immaculate College, and we will finish up by looking at the various career pathways upon graduating from the programme. So we are often asked, what is the BA in Early Childhood Care and Education? Well, It is a professional qualification that specialises in early childhood care and education for children from birth to 6 years old. So it is for students who are interested in learning about how children from birth right up to school-going age learn and develop in these early childhood years. Mary Immaculate College has a long history and a good reputation in terms of offering the BA, offering it for the first time in 2003. In 2021, the CAO minimum entry requirement was 409 points, and each year we offer up to 80 places on this Bachelor of Arts in Early Childhood Care and Education. Throughout the programme, which is run over 4 years, you will engage in lectures and tutorials. And some of our lectures are shared with the B.Ed students, particularly in Year 4, when you will share modules around the final year undergraduate dissertation. We are often asked why it is important to study early childhood. And as I said to you earlier, the period we are talking about is the period from birth right through to 6 years when children generally start primary school. Did you know, though, that 90% of a child's brain development happens before age 5, which means that the way in which we work with young children is very important. During the period from birth to 5, learning happens at a speed that will never be equalled in the life course. It sets children up for learning in early childhood, through school and throughout life. Neuroscientific evidence tells us that this is the most important time in a child's development, and therefore we need to get it right in this period for young children. It is the time when their dispositions for learning, their love of learning are established. And of course, we know that this is so important for all children, but it is even more important when we talk about children with special educational needs and children who come from socio-economic backgrounds. And neuroscientific evidence again tells us that early experiences affect the quality of the brain architecture by establishing either a sturdy or a fragile foundation for all of the learning, health and behaviour that follows. And that is why when we offer the BA in Early Childhood Care and Education at Mary Immaculate College, we want our early childhood teachers to be the best possible teachers they can be in terms of working with these younger children upon graduation. Our youngest children deserve, want and need the best possible teachers, and that is the purpose of the degree in Early Childhood Care and Education here at Mary Immaculate College. Our government have a vision for early childhood, and you can find detail about this vision in First 5, a whole of government strategy for babies, young children and their families, which was published by the government in 2018. Throughout the 4 years of the degree programme, we talk about bioecological systems theory, which means that the child is at the centre of everything we do, and those around the child, beginning in the home, moving into the early childhood setting, into primary school, into the community, all shape that child's development. A core aspect of our programme throughout the 4 years is to help our early childhood teachers to understand, to gain the knowledge, the skills and the attributes required to work collaboratively with parents, with the health services, with key people within the community to ensure that our youngest children have the best possible start in life and that they are prepared for the transition to school and the continuum of education between primary school and preschool. Here you will see the various strands of the Bachelor of Arts in Early Childhood Care and Education. And we begin with some of the greats who have influenced our understanding of young children and have shaped how we work with them. So for example, you will be exploring Maria Montessori's philosophy, Steiner, and more recently, the Reggio approach, which is the approach used in Northern Italy. You will look in depth at child development for that period from birth to 6. You will look at child health and well-being, which, as we know, is fundamental to children's life chances. You will look at curriculum and pedagogy, and not just curriculum in the context of Ireland. And as you know, we have ASHTR, the Early Childhood Curriculum Framework for children from birth to 6 years. We also have SHIELTA, the National Quality Framework. Alongside both these practice frameworks, you will also be introduced to international models of early childhood curriculum. So, for example, you will study Te Whāriki from New Zealand, Being, Belonging and Becoming, the early childhood curriculum in Australia. We will explore the Early Years Foundation stage in the UK, the Curriculum for Excellence in Scotland. So you will be exposed to multiple curricula and multiple ways of working with, understanding and supporting and facilitating children's learning and development in the most formative years of their development. Professional practice is an integral part of the BA in Early Childhood here at Mary Immaculate College, and I will talk to you a little more about that in a couple of minutes. And we also support, encourage and facilitate our students to be reflective early childhood teachers. Not to take anything at face value, but to question and to question deeply, to interrogate the literature, to interrogate policy, to interrogate practice, to interrogate early childhood curriculum. And in this way, to build their knowledge, to build their understanding, their capacity and their own disposition for working with young children. So when we look at early childhood in that lovely period, a distinct period in the child's life from birth to 6, we focus in the BA in Early Childhood Care and Education on the child's holistic learning and development. We do not see the child as learning discrete subjects. Rather, we focus on integrated learning. So when a child is looking at a book, for example, and looking at pictures and trying to understand letters and words, we feel that there is much more going on than simply looking at the pictures. They are learning about colour. They're learning about a sense of direction as words flow from left to right. They're learning about shape, letter formation. They're learning about position. They're learning concentration. They're learning task orientation. Likewise, when children are sitting having their lunch, chatting to their friends, think about the social and emotional development that is going on, and also broader development as they chat about what they're eating for their lunch, chat to their friends, talk about the things that they've been doing in the setting all morning. We believe very strongly in this notion of active learning, so the child's agency, their autonomy within the early childhood setting and classroom, the level of choice that the children have, their capacity to make decisions about their own learning, supported and facilitated by the early childhood teacher. And there is so much more that I could tell you, but these are some of the things that you will learn about within the degree programme in Early Childhood Care and Education. It is so important that we mention the learning environment because we believe in the importance of the learning environment both indoors and outdoors, not just within the confines of the classroom or the early childhood setting, but that the outdoor learning environment is equally important for the children. And so a huge element of the programme talks about outdoor learning, learning in nature, risk-taking, all of which is so important for children's learning and development, building resilience, trust, and children's positive dispositions towards learning. Again, just a very quick overview of the types of modules that you will be undertaking through the 4 years of the degree programme. So as I said, you will be looking at child health and well-being. You will be looking at the child, the family and community, linking back to what I said earlier on about the child being supported by various people and systems within the learning environment and within their community. You will look in depth at child development from birth right through to 6 years. The role of play in children's development. And we know in this fundamental period of development that play is the most appropriate mechanism for children's learning and development. It is how children communicate. It is how children learn about the world, experiment and make sense of the world. You will look at creative arts, language and early literacy, cultural and linguistic diversity. As I said earlier, curriculum, different models of curriculum, pedagogy, how you engage with curriculum, how you plan it, implement it, evaluate it. There is a very strong element in the programme on including children with special educational needs within the early years setting. You will do creative music in the early years. We will look at leadership and management because, as you will see later on, many of our graduates go into positions of leadership and management upon graduation. There is an undergraduate final year dissertation, which is a core element of our programme. And this is undertaken in semester 7 and semester 8 in the programme. And this is an opportunity for you to undertake a dissertation in an area of your choosing and to go and undertake some small-scale research study. It could be on children's language development. It could be on shared story reading with children. It could be animal-assisted therapy. These are just some of the areas that students in the past and are currently engaging with in terms of their undergraduate dissertation. This is your opportunity to show the wealth of knowledge that you have and your wealth of experience, having gained it over the 4 years of the degree programme. And it is an opportunity for students to shine in an area that they are passionate about. And it is also your legacy to the students coming behind you and the satisfaction that students get from undertaking this research and adding to the learning and understanding in the field of early childhood care and education. As I mentioned earlier, professional practice placement is an integral aspect of the programme here in Mary Immaculate College. Students engage in 27 weeks approximately of professional practice placement over the 4 years of the degree programme. This professional practice placement is undertaken in a variety of settings and contexts. There are opportunities for you to work with and to gain knowledge and understanding of working with children from birth to 3 and children aged from 3 to 6 years. Over the 4 years of the degree programme, you will have multiple opportunities to gain hands-on experience with these children, as I said, in a variety of settings and contexts. So you will work, for example, in community early childhood care and education settings and in privately owned early childhood care and education settings. You will work in settings that cater for the whole range, birth to 6, offering full day care provision, but you will also get experience in settings that provide care and education for children from age 3 up to school-going age only. You will also gain experience of working with children in primary school contexts, where again you can get first-hand experience of how the continuum of education from preschool right through to the infant classes in primary school operates in practice. There is an exciting opportunity in third year for students to engage in international practice placement. And so, with our partner universities through an Erasmus Plus programme, there are opportunities to work and study in Denmark, Norway and Spain. And further details of this is available on our website for the Early Childhood programme at Mary Immaculate College. So, what happens after your degree when you qualify? Upon graduation, you are a specialist in early childhood care and education. The BA from Mary Immaculate College is highly regarded nationally and internationally. And to give you a flavour of some of the opportunities upon graduation, many of our students work in the sector directly with children aged from birth to 6. They become room leaders in early childhood settings. They take on the role of management in early childhood settings. They also, some of them, establish their own early childhood care and education business. As I said to you, the degree is regarded and well regarded nationally. Many of our graduates from 2007, for example, and later graduates 2011, 2015, are now employed by the Department of Education as early years inspectors, going into settings, inspecting the education component of programmes for very young children in settings before school. Some of our graduates are also employed by TUSLA as preschool inspectors, looking at the health and safety of provision for children from birth to 6. We also have students who undertake postgraduate training And some of our graduates have gone on and done speech and language therapy and play therapy, for example. We have graduates who work for Better Start, the national mentoring programme that is operated by Pobal and the Department of Children here in Ireland. They work for the City and County Childcare Committees. So as you can see, the possibilities are endless. The degree not only trains our graduates to be early childhood specialists with the capacity, the knowledge, the skills and the disposition to work with children directly birth to 3 and birth to, and 3 to 6, but also to take on other important roles within that sector. And many of our students go abroad and work in places as far afield as New Zealand, Australia, Canada and the UK. I hope that I have given you a good overview of what is involved in the exciting and innovative BA in Early Childhood Care and Education at Mary Immaculate College. I hope it has whetted your appetite for the degree, and I hope to see some of you come to Mary Immaculate College to undertake the degree in the coming years. Thank you so much for listening, and if you have any further questions, please feel free to get in touch at mary.moloney@mic.ul.ie.